Hey everyone, it's Ollie, and in this tutorial we're going to be making something called a state manager. And what I mean by this is basically, if you know in games you sort of have menus and then you have pause menus and then the actual game itself, this state manager we're going to make is going to manage all of those different parts of the game, like menus, game states, pause menus, game over screens, and we're going to make methods and everything so we can easily switch between these different states. So I guess we can begin straight away. This might be quite a long tutorial because we're going to make quite a few classes, and also I apologise in advance for any errors that we encounter because I'm kind of doing this off the top of my head. I haven't really planned it or anything, so yeah. I've got all the classes we made previously up here, so I suggest you watch the other tutorials if you haven't already. I'm going to make a new class in here called State, and basically this State class is going to be the superclass for all of the other game states we make, so like menus, game, blah blah blah. So the State class is going to have like a run method and render and update methods. The first thing we need to do with it is implement runnable, because we're gonna give it a thread, and then we can implement that method there, and then we're going to need some variables. So what we need is a running variable, and we're also going to have a variable called ticks, which is basically how many times the game has updated. So we can have private void private volatile, boolean called running, and it equals false initially. And then we can have a private integer, or actually a long, called let's see, ticks. There we go. Make it equal to 0 initially. And this is something cool you can do in NetBeans in case you didn't already know. You can highlight a variable, right click, go insert code, and then I'm going to make getters for both of these. And you can actually tick which ones you want to do. I'll just select all of those, hit generate, and now I have is running and get ticks. So that's a pretty cool thing you can do. I'm just going to move that back up here. There we go. So now that we've got getters for both of those and we've got our run method, we're actually going to make those methods themselves. So public void render and public void update. There we go. And when we call these methods from the class we're extending this from, actually no, the class that is extending this class here, when we call it from there, we may need to call super, because we need to add some stuff into the update and render methods, and that probably made no sense at all because it didn't when I was saying it. So let me just basically do this here, and you'll probably get what I mean. So in our update method in the state class, we've said ticks plus plus to add 1 to the ticks every time. So basically, when we make our actual update method in another class, we would call super.update like that, just to make sure that we call that, and that would add 1 to the ticks, and then we can carry on with our normal code. So that's when we make the other classes though. So I'm going to add that here. I don't think we need anything for the render method, possibly something like double buffering, but I already have that in my main class, so I won't do that right now. But what we're also going to need for a state is we're going to need a screen for the state to render on, and we're going to use a buffered image for that. Buffered image. And buffered images will be one of your best friends when making 2D games in Java, because it's packed full of amazing methods that you can just do just about anything to do with graphics and rendering and things like that. My friend Matt is actually working on tutorials on a pixel rendering engine using buffered image, the one similar to one that Notch made in a game called Minecraft, which he made for the Ludum Dare competition. But anyway, so we'll make a buffered image here called screen, and we will actually make it public, not private. Screen, and then we can set screen equal to a new buffered image, and we need to give it width and height as a parameter. So I'm going to go back to main, and I'm going to say private static, no, not private, public static int width and height, and then just here width equals get width, height equals get height. There we go. Actually, wait one sec. I actually did it the other way around, initializing them there, and then I'll put them in here for width and height. What is this warning about? Oh wait, don't worry about that. So anyway, if we come back to the state, we can then call that variable from main width, and main.height, not hand cursor, height. And then what it needs to take is a buffered image type, so we can call buffered image dot type int. You can do ARGB, which includes alpha for transparency, or you can do RBG, which is just, or RGB, which is just standard red, green, blue colors. I'm going to call that one. So basically what this screen is going to do is it's going to render, we're going to render everything we need to draw to it. So let's just think here. We're actually going to make a graphics object right under this. We'll make this private though, and then we'll make a getter method in a second. Private graphics, and I can't remember whether it's graphics 2D or graphics, so we'll just leave it like that. G, and then this equals screen dot create graphics or get graphics, I forget. It's more convenient. Alright, create graphics, there we go. So basically we create the screen and then we create the graphics here. And then what we're going to want to do is, actually no, that should be fine for now. So what we'll make a new method called public graphics, and actually, did that return graphics 2D? Yeah, make this graphics 2D. Graphics 2D actually gives you more options when creating stuff such as rotation and better translation, things like that. So graphics 2D, get graphics, and then return G. So basically what we've done so far is we've made a base class called state, and this is, we're going to extend this from any other state class you make, like menu state, game state, etc. It implements runnable, and we're actually in the run method down here, we're going to say while running, and then I'm just going to simply say update and render. You can add more complex code in the run method if you want, but that's all I'm going to do for the sakes of this tutorial. And we've got a running variable which is equal to false, and we need to make a start and stop method. We'll do that in a sec. We've got ticks, which is how many times the game is updated, which is, we add one to it here. We've then got a screen, which is a buffered image, and then we've got graphics, which is the graphics from that buffered image, so we can draw to it. We've then got a method called get graphics, and then in our render method, in this one, it's not actually going to do anything. So that its sole purpose is to be overridden by the any other states we class, any other state classes we make, and then that's pretty much it. So we'll just quickly make start and stop methods. Public void start, there we go. And then if the game isn't running, then we can say running equals true, and a new thread of this, because we implement runnable, and then we can call start on that. So we basically set running to true, and then make a new thread, and then we'll make a stop method, stop. If the game is running, then we can say running equals not running. There we go, start and stop methods. So that is pretty much the state class built. we're now going to build a state manager class, which is going to manage as many states as we can possibly make. State manager. And the first thing we need for this is an array list to hold all of the states we'll need. So array list of states, we'll just call it states, and we're going to initialize it in the constructor. There we go. So this states class here is going to hold every single state that we can make, and I'm going to make it private. Basically what we need to do is we need to make another method that will add all of the states to it. So private void init all states. There we go. And I'll just add a to do here. Add states, and then we'll call this in here. So what we're doing, we're making a states array list, going to hold all of the states we make up here, or we make from extending this class. And then we just simply initialize it, and then we call this method initialize all states. And in here, what it's going to be is it's going to be states. We'll call states.add, and then we'll give it a state object. So we're going to create some more methods in this now. What we need is a method to render the current state and a method to update the current state. So I'll make both of those now. You could probably merge them into one, but I'm not going to do that for the sakes of this tutorial. Public void update current state, and that's reminded me we also need a variable private integer called current state, and that's simply the index at which we need the index of this. Wait, let me explain this. Every state in the array list will have an index starting from 0 and going upwards, and the current state will hold the index of whichever state needs to be rendered, or wherever the current one is. So update current state, we say states dot get current state dot update. There we go. And then we need to make public void render current state, and this actually needs to take a graphics object G, and the first thing we need to do is make a graphics 2D object, because that's what we made in the state class, and import that. G2D equals graphics 2D G, just simply cast it like that. And then we can say states.get current state.render, and let me just check. Actually, I don't think we needed to do that. I think I was thinking of something else. Or no, actually I wasn't. We don't say render, we call screen, except, wait, sorry, delete that. We need to say g2d dot draw image, and then we need to say states dot get current state dot screen, and then we give it 0, 0, and null for the image observer. And we can also give it a width and height, the main dot width, main dot height, not hand cursor, height, there we go. So basically the render current state method is going to be called in main over here, and that's the reason we need to give it a graphics object, because we're passing it through this paint component method. So we'll make methods now for setting the states, because we'll need to do that as well. Public void set current state. And what we'll do actually as well is we're gonna say, let's think, we're gonna give this a constructor here, the state, and we're gonna name each of our states. Public state string s, and this is an idea that JMonkey has given me from using it for a while. I'm gonna give it a public static string called name, and we're going to say this dot name equals s, And basically we're going to give a name to each of our states so we can actually access it by that name. So let's go back into State Manager, and to set the current state, we're going to give it a string parameter, string s, and we will need to do an if statement. We'll say if, actually we'll do a for statement first. We need to say for int I 0, I is less than the states.size, and then I++, because we need to loop through every one of the states, and we need to see which name matches with the string given here, and then once it finds a match, it will set that to the current state. So each time it loops through, it's going to say if s.equals, and then we'll say states.get index at I, and then we'll say wait, where are we? Dot name, where is it? Get I should be name. Oh, there we go. It's got it. Okay, so once it's grabbed the name, and actually, I'm not sure why I made it static. We don't actually need to make it static. We can delete that. So once we have the name, we can say, basically, if it finds a match, if the string that was entered equals the state's name as it's looping through, we can then say the current state, which is the variable we have at the top there. Current state equals states. Oh no, actually, current state just equals I. Simple as that. So that's how we set the state. If none of these match, then the method will just return and no new state will be set. So be careful that you name your states correctly in here. And this tutorial's going on to nearly 20 minutes, so I'm probably going to wrap it up by 20 minutes. We're going to make one quick state, maybe two. If I go to new package, new class, I'm going to call this menu state. Delete the comments, and menu state is going to extend our amazing state class. And basically, because it inherits all those methods, the only methods we need to override is render and update. And remember, in update we need to call super.update because we need to do the add one to the ticks. I know you could do that in this, but it's sort of an unnecessary kind of line of code in your update method when you can just call the super one. And especially if you need more than one line of code in your update method down there. So let's just see what's going on. Oh yeah, because we made our constructor with the name. So in the public menu state constructor, we're actually going to call super, which is the super class, which is state, and we're going to give it a name. So I'm going to call this menu state. So now that we've given it a name properly, in the render method, what we need to do is we need to call get graphics because we made it private. Actually, we'll make a new object of it. Graphics 2D and import it, or maybe we don't need to import it. Graphics 2D G equals get graphics. Remember, that's the method. Now we, oh crap, I spelled it wrong, that's fine. No, don't create a new class. Graphics, like that, and then import the actual one. Get graphics. Remember, get graphics was the method we made in here, which returns G, and G is equal to this screen here, and then we say create graphics from the screen. So we get the graphics, and then we can say g.draw, or rather g.fill rectangle. I'm just going to fill a rectangle. I'll set the color first. G.setColor, color.red. Fill rectangle at 100, 100, 100, 100. There we go, that's just basically a test. We don't need to do anything in the update method. And within this, going to set the color again, g.setColor, color.white, and at light, g.drawString. This is the menu state. and then going to do it at like 120, 120. And I'm going to let this tutorial run over 20 minutes. Just tell me in the comments if it's too long, because I'm always worried when I make tutorials this long, because people might kind of get bored and go off it or something. So once we've made the menu state, that's basically done. Obviously your menu state's going to be an actual one. Mine is just an example saying this is the menu state, and there's actually nothing in the update method. We've made a menu state, so we're going to go back into State Manager, and in the initialize all states, I'm going to say states, which is our array list up here, going to add new menu state, like that. And that is, I'm just going to show you how this works now. If I go back to main, and then I'm going to call State Manager sm equals new State Manager, and we'll actually, oh crap, copy that into the initialize method. So once we've got our new State Manager, we can say State Manager.set current state, and we'll call menu state, because that is what we named our menu state here. And it might be good if you're making a large game to document the names of the states, because you may forget them or whatever. So now that we've set the current state to the menu state, what we can do is we can go into paint component, and we can actually call sm.render current state and give it g as that parameter. We could also call update, but there was nothing in our update method, so I'm just going to leave it like that. What we need to do now is call start on the menu state. So menu state, I guess we'll just call it on this one. How are we going to do this? I don't think we can't call it in there. What we can do is we can make a similar thing to this here, the set current state. I'm just going to copy that whole thing. I'm going to call it start current state. Start current state, and instead of saying current state equals I, we can say, actually we don't even need all of that. We can just say states.get current state, and then we can call start. So hopefully now everything's all set up. Might just copy this right here. Just call stop and call that stop. And now if I run, hopefully nothing went wrong. And something did, so let's just check this out. Oh, and obviously we actually need to call that start current state somewhere. So start current state. And we don't need a string parameter, because if I go back into this, delete that string parameter. So now if we run this, hopefully, there we go. We have a kind of glitchy cube saying this is the menu state. And the reason it's glitchy is because it's constantly kind of layering one on top of each other. But that can easily be fixed. So I will probably tell you how to do that in the next tutorial, because it has been 23 minutes, so I'm going to stop this one now. I actually want to continue this tutorial because I think it's a pretty good thing to learn how to do, getting states and levels working. So I really hope that all made sense, but somehow I think it might have been a bit confusing. So please post in the comments or on the forums, and I will answer your questions. People send me a lot of personal messages, but I tend not to respond. I usually respond to those in like big waves, like sort of once every week I'll reply to all the personal messages. You're far more likely to get an answer far more quickly if you head over to the forums and make an account. If you do make an account and you haven't before, please make your first post in the introduce yourself section, because what we get is lots of robot spammer accounts, and they usually just post spam in the general discussion section. So that way, if you introduce yourself first, then we can approve your post and then you can become a proper part of the forums. So I highly suggest becoming a member of the forums, because if you're sort of working on a project, you can keep it open in one window, and you can just feel free to post any questions you want anytime in the help section. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope you did enjoy this tutorial. Please be blunt with me if you didn't. Just say it was too long or you didn't like it or whatever. So yeah, that's about it. If you enjoy these series, please subscribe, and thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.